Singapore is this tiny island right at the south in the tip of Malaysia. And what I love about Singapore is that it's such a melting pot of different nationalities, cultures, and even religions. Singapore has been very blessed in terms of our GDP per capita being some of the top 10 in the world. One of the main issues that we see in this nation, especially in the recent years, has been a rise in depression and suicides. This nation is in need for a gospel of grace and a gospel of hope. And we hope that through what we do in Serve Our City, we will be able to serve Singapore in this way. Serve Our City is a social responsibility arm of our church, but primarily we exist to show the love of Christ for our community in two tangible ways. One, we serve the community in action through volunteering with different people, groups in need. Two, we empower the next generation of community leaders through investing in their education as well as mentoring. Serve Our City started as a ground-up initiative. In other words, it was not something that the church as an office started, but it was something that the members of the church started. So certain life groups just began to get together and wanted to serve here in Singapore. I think in the last year, Serve Our City has had to get creative in actually finding out the needs and also finding ways to serve these needs. At the point of the lockdown, there were migrant workers that were left without food because in the early days, the caterers were so afraid of the disease, not knowing what it entailed. Serve Our City began to sponsor and deliver meals twice a day, lunch and dinner, to migrant worker dormitories. Over this period of 8 weeks, we were able to feed 500 of these migrant workers who were mainly from India as well as Bangladesh. We also set up a temporary financial relief fund called Steady SG or Steady Singapore. So this fund was set up so that the needy families could tap into it. Many of them still had medical fees or even small things like broken spectacles, and they couldn't afford to get a new one, and without a new one, they can't go to work. And so it was little things like that the fund was available to the community in order to meet their short-term needs for that season. Singapore went on second lockdown in 2021, and this time it greatly affected our hawkers. Hawkers are small food stall owners in Singapore because their diners were no longer allowed to dine out. That meant everything had to be takeaway. For many of these small food stall owners, they do not have food delivery apps. They are not on the platforms, and so the business suffered. The other group that really suffered were the taxi drivers because no one was taking cars anywhere because everybody was staying home. And so at this time, Serve Our City came up with the lunch drive-through project, where we actually bought food from the hawkers to give free lunches to the taxi drivers just to relieve them of some of their financial burden. I think one of the biggest highlights for Serve Our City in the last year as a testimony was to see one of our bursary recipients come to know the Lord and receive Christ. And then most recently, we had 4 students who had just the opportunity to be prayed over by an Every Nation leader. Now, these 4 students were so blown away that a complete stranger would know so much about what was happening in their hearts and in their lives. And that just piqued their curiosity of who is this God that is so personal and that seems to know so much about them and care about them. And so we're really excited for our campus team to continue to journey with them in discovering who God is and who Christ is. 1 Corinthians chapter 15:58 says for us to be steadfast, immovable, and always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that in the Lord our labor is not in vain. We're just so privileged to be taking this journey in the partnership of the gospel with everyone.